Alright, so this is going to be a beginner's tutorial based on a lot of questions you get asked by a lot of new people to bass, and what they want to know is how is it possible to be able to understand my fretboard when going through the scales. They'll tell you they can already play the scale, which is the major scale. That's what we were sort of referring to on the bass. So they can already do this. So they can play the major scale. Let me just move this backwards so you can clearly see what I'm doing. I'm playing in A sharp, G sharp, sorry. So they can already play the major scale, but what they're trying to do is understand how to build from that. How do you understand where the notes are? Particularly if you want to play by ear, this will be a very good trick. It will also give you a bearing as to where you are. This will also give you some filler notes, so it will give you an understanding of how to fill gaps in using some really basic stuff. And you can do this in your practice time, you can do this when you're playing, it doesn't matter where you are, and a lot of people do this anyway. So essentially it's this. So we already know the scale, and we know how to play that scale. Now, to understand in the context of music, a lot of the songs you'll find you'll be playing a 1, you'll be playing a 4, a 5, and a 6. At the very basic core of every song that you play, those numbers are consistent within the actual tracks that we play, within the music we play. So a good way to build up your playing and get a bearing of where you're coming from and where you're going is to get a mental understanding of where the notes sit in context of the scale, but playing that out musically. And what I mean is this. Say, for example, the song was going from the 1, from the root, to the 4, to the 4th note of the scale, the major scale, to the 5, and then coming back to the 1. Now, a good way to get your bearing is to play the note just before that note in the scale. So you play the 7-1 to the 4, you play the 3 before the 4. To the 5, you play the 4 before the 5. And then to play the 1, you play the 7 before the 1. So that gives you a sort of mental image in your mind where things are going. And if you want to be able to identify, well, what's in this actual song, you want to hear it with your ears, without having to look at sheet music, etc. This is a really good way of doing it, because if you have a reference note, you will not memorize the notes that are behind the actual note that's being played, and you'll be able to use that in time. Your ears will pick it up. Now, this isn't something that's going to happen in the sense of, how can I put it? It's not something that's going to happen in the sense of how can I put it? It's just going to happen. You're just going to get up one day and you're going to realize, oh snap, yeah, all right, I can hear that now. I can hear it. I know where that 1 is. I know where that 5 is. And so on and so forth. You can also do the reverse where you play the note after. So that's the 5, the 6 to the 5, 5, 4, 2, 1, 2, 1. And already that sounds musical without you even having to do anything. It's doing that same 1, 4, 5, 1, 1, 4, 5, 1. So it's the same thing. You're bouncing off the note that's in front of that note that you're looking to play, and straight away you've already got a musical riff there that you can play straight away, and that's something that you can play quite simply. People might just turn around and say, oh, that sounds nice, and you've not even done much. You've just moved on from playing your scales and playing those individual notes. 5, 1. Then you can do But yeah, you can do stuff like that on the fly, and it's not even stuff that's difficult for you to remember, and it'll sort of become part and parcel of what you play. And more importantly, you'll be able to build upon those. So, for example, we spoke about going using the note before, right? Yeah, going back to our progression from the 1 to the 4 to the 5 to the 1. We'll come back to that one. So, using that alone, now I'm going to interchange them. Okay, so there, I didn't play the 5, I played the 7, which is something you can use as an alternative. If you know everybody else is going to go to a 5 major, you can obviously play that 7 and then come back to the 1. So there are already things that you can do based on what we've already just done there quite simply to fill up if you're a beginner and you just want to fill in the gaps and do some extra stuff rather than just sitting on that one and sitting on the 4, sitting on the 5, and then sitting back on the 1. There are things that you can do which are actually quite simple and they sound really, really nice. So have a try of that. Go back to some of the music you already play. Pick out some of the chord progressions where you see a lot of these notes in there. And then just try that. Try bouncing off, bouncing off, bouncing off, bouncing off. So we did a song recently, not too long ago. It was like an online-based thing because obviously, with all this stuff going on with COVID, etc., you can't really meet. And where's our note? Okay, A flat, G sharp, and it's a simple thing that I happened to come across. I think someone might have played it on the keyboard and said, "Hey, try this out." And I picked up this little thing, which it sounds ridiculous, but whenever you're going to a 6 or you're playing a 6, if you choose to, if it's a funky type song, you can bounce off the 5. Now, it may sound pretty simple right now, but trust you me, with the right groove going, try this out. Try this. Anyway, try that out. Try that bounce between the 5 and the 6 and see what you think. If it's like a funky type groove, just try that. It doesn't matter how you play. You don't have to play like this. You can play it however you want to play it, but just give it a go and see how cool that little simplified thing sounds on an actual track. And you'll see that this will work wonders for your playing. Within no time, you'll be able to pick out where the actual notes are by ear, but B, you'll also be able to fill in gaps quite simply rather than just staying on the actual root note. Also, the final thing you'll also find out is you can actually play some of these notes as alternative notes. So, for example, if your song, again, we're going off Western pop culture music, so if it's anything gospel or anything pop or anything along those lines, it's the same thing. But this principle will also stand the same. If they're playing a 4, if their chord is a 4, for you can play a 2. It won't always work, so you'll need to pick the places depending on the song where it's most appropriate. But that will come with time. You will know, particularly if you work on what I'm showing you, where you bounce off the note before or the note afterwards to make a run. You'll kind of know when you're playing the song that, what, a 2 will sound appropriate here. Let me give it a try, and 9 out of 10 times it'll work. But if they're playing a 4 chord, you can play a 2, okay? If they're playing a 5 chord, you can play either a 3 or a 7, depending on where they are within the actual song. And if they're playing now this one's a bit tricky now. The keyboard player and the guitarist may hate you for this. If they're playing a 6 minor chord, you could play the 1, but I didn't tell you to do that. I don't want people coming knocking on my door. So if they're playing a 4 chord, particularly if it's a major, but if they're playing any 4 chord, if you play a 2, you'll often find that it'll make a nice little sound. they're playing a 5 chord, depending on what the song is and where they are in the song. You could play a 3, or you could play a 7, like I just did at the end there. If they're playing a 6 chord, 6 minor chord, you could play a 1. We've already spoken about the 7. And yeah, you're back to 1. So just give those a try as well, as you're filling in stuff and you're trying to play sort of notes that are alternative. You'll find that a lot of this stuff could actually work out in your advantage. But I'm going to end this video here. If you have any questions in the comments below, by all means, I'll be more than happy to answer them. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.